Hi, I'm Meg with Cook with Meg, and today we are in the kitchen and we are making a fall harvest soup. This is my recipe at all Cook with Meg classes. We keep the recipe handy, so you will see me glancing at it. And it's really just a chance to use whatever veggies that you might have on hand. We're gonna roast them in a really hot oven with some oil, some spices, some salt and pepper. And when they come out of the oven, roasted and caramelized and delicious, we are going to add it to broth. Now, if you do have a blender or a stick blender or an immersion blender, you can make it kind of like a pureed soup, or we can just chop it all up once it comes out of the oven, add it to the broth, and you're still good to go. Either way, we're getting that caramelization from the oven. So if you will take a little peek in my bowl, we have a whole bunch of veggies. So I'm gonna give it a toss. I have chopped up sweet potato, regular potato, mushrooms. What else is in here? Some onion, just a white onion, and I did have some broccoli, which isn't necessarily a fall vegetable, but we're trying to go for flavor. And did I say mushrooms? We've got some mushrooms. We ultimately want everything in, I always say, consistent sizes. So the pieces, relatively the same size. Carrots are a root vegetable. Sweet potato is a root vegetable, a potato. The onion, those are things that are a bit harder, and the broccoli is going to cook down a bit faster, so is the mushroom. But putting it all together in a great big bowl, we want about 4 cups. We also want a nice healthy glug of oil. So for measuring, we're going about 3 tablespoons of oil. 4 tablespoons will bring us right up to a 1/4 cup. So we want about 3 tablespoons of oil. And then couldn't be easier, we're gonna put in a little bit of pepper, we're gonna put in a little bit of salt. We're not going to overdo it in the salt department though, because remember that's going into a soup broth, whether you've got chicken broth, veggie broth, beef broth, it all works. So we don't want to over salt it. You know, we always say we can always add salt, but it's really difficult to take away something if it's too salty. So a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and then I have 2 of my favorite fall spices, all-time faves. Thyme and rosemary. These are just dried and they've been ground up, so you're not going to get those little sticks of rosemary. We're going to do about a 1/2 teaspoon of each. You can absolutely use fresh herbs if you have them, if you have access to them. But dried herbs pack a really good punch. I'm moving everything to the back counter. I always do that. That's a real habit I've gotten into, but it allows me to know that I've already added the ingredient. So, thyme and rosemary, BFFs in the fall kitchen. So good with roasted veggies. I have a spatula and I am literally just going to toss the thyme, toss the rosemary, toss the oil. We want everything to be shiny, slippery and shiny and coated and yummy. Sometimes I will even add a little more extra oil, but I feel like we got these guys quite good. They're nice and coated. Kids can help out with this part too. If you need me to slow down, you just need to pause the video. It's that simple. And pick the veggies you love. All right, I have now just a big old, and keyword old, this is a very old baking sheet. I have covered mine with just some aluminum foil and I gave it a spritz with non-stick spray. And just like that, couldn't be easier. We're just gonna tumble out all of the veggies. You want everything in a nice even layer rather. If your pan is too crowded, they get piled on top of each other and then they start to kind of steam. We really want them to caramelize and we want them to roast. So if you do have a sheet pan that's nice and big, certainly use that. If you have 2 sheet pans and they'll both fit in your oven, you could do 2 sheet pans worth of veggies. I actually think a roasted vegetable might be one of my most favorite things ever. So here's where 2 recipes happen. You can literally just make this giant pan of roasted veggies and have an unbelievable side dish or a main dish. Let's say you had access to a little bit of goat cheese. So incredible. Once these are roasted, crumble a little goat cheese on top. Perfection. So here's what's happening. It couldn't be easier. Again, I keep saying that, but I really mean it. We're gonna pop these into an oven that's really nice and hot. It's 425 degrees Fahrenheit. We are going to bake or roast these for about 25 to 35 minutes. We wanna make sure that they are tender, that they are caramelized, that they are not burning. So what I do is, even though we know they're going in for about a half an hour, probably around 15 minutes, I'm gonna pull them out, use a spatula or tongs, toss them a little bit, get both sides caramelizing, and then I will meet you back here with finished roasted vegetables, and I will show you how we finish out our harvest fall soup. Meet you back here in just a couple minutes. Well, 25. Hi friends, we are back and we have just taken our gorgeous, really large pan of veggies out of the oven, and I want to show you, we talked about how they definitely shrink up when they roast. Look how beautifully gorgeous this is. So again, we've got potatoes, white onion, some mushroom, broccoli, sweet potato, and carrots. We tossed the raw cubed veggies in olive oil. You can use any oil you've got on hand. We also added some salt and pepper, some rosemary, and thyme. Now, can you see beside me, I also have 4 cups of chicken broth. Chicken stock, chicken broth, whatever you've got on hand, veggie, beef, does not matter. And what I've done is I have just, it's quite warm, but I'll show you. So there's my broth, heated it up on the stove. It actually helps make the finished soup even that much quicker. So heat your broth. I say 4 cups just because it's sort of like a good marriage between the amount of vegetables. 4 cups of stock, 4 cups of veggies, put it together, boom, you've got a delicious soup. Now, we have options. The options are, you can add your vegetables directly to the broth, give it a stir, taste it, you have soup. You can use an immersion blender. If you've got a blender like this, we call it an immersion blender or a stick blender, you can put your veggies down in and then very carefully use a stick blender to puree it, if you will. But your other option is you can actually just take a little bit of the vegetables out. You can do a little or a lot. We'll do a spoonful just to show you. And you can further process or chop the roasted vegetables that way. And that's a really easy way if you don't have an immersion blender, maybe you don't want to use an immersion blender. You could also use a regular blender, but this is where I'm putting my knife down because I want to be very clear. If you puree soup with hot liquid and hot vegetables in a blender, you need to take that little cork insert, that little center plastic piece out. You cannot have a blender full of hot liquid with a sealed jar top. You need to vent. Take that little piece out. You heard me say that twice. Okay, so I'm not even showing you a blender because that's not the method that I'm choosing, but if I wanted to, I could. We'll use this because these are very hot. Chop them up this way. So again, super easy way to process and break down your veggies even further. Easy, easy, easy. I wish you could smell it in here. It smells amazing. I've got my little handy bench scraper. Just be careful when you're scraping anything off the knife. And then you can easily get your vegetables down into the broth. So again, whether you want to puree them, add them whole, or partially chopped, such a neat way to get your veggie soup happening. So let's pretend that we have either chopped everything we needed to. There is my veggie soup. It already looks incredible. I'm gonna just carefully add in the rest. These are all very hot. And that's sort of a shortcut in that if you have roasted vegetables, put them right into the hot broth as soon as you finish. as soon as they come out of the oven, and then you're literally right on your way to having beautiful, hot, delicious vegetable soup. So I'm gonna show you what this looks like. Now this again isn't pureed, but look at that gorgeous fall harvest soup, incredible. And if you wanted to, you can absolutely puree this down. An immersion blender, just make sure you have enough liquid in your pot to cover these little vented holes. So what happens when you use it, can you see? It's a handheld blender, but you definitely need to be careful and you need to make sure that the level of liquid comes higher than the blender. This is screeching hot. So what I also recommend, if you are going to use an immersion blender, is that you take a kitchen towel and you put a kitchen towel around the pot. This is where you might even want to have a couple people helping out. I always try to do things myself, but watch now. You can hear it blending. You can hear it pureeing, but what's not happening is we're not getting splashed. So what that's doing is it's just, set this down here, it's just pureeing those vegetables. It's making it a little foamy and a little frothy, but it will break those down even further if you want a nice creamy consistency almost. Now, what we haven't done is we haven't had a little taste. This is also where the vegetables go in. They start to give off their gorgeous caramelized flavor. But I want to taste the broth now that the broth has had a chance to sit with the veggies. I don't even know what to tell you. That is so good. I don't even think it needs anything. Wow, that's flavor packed. It's a warm fall hug. I could not love it more. I like chunks of vegetables, so I would be okay with it just like this. If you want to puree it more, go for it. This is beautiful on its own. It's beautiful with a little bit of sour cream dolloped on top or a little bit of yogurt. It's really good with a little sprinkle of Parmesan cheese, a nice loaf of crusty bread, some crackers crumbled in on top. It is pure vegetables and broth, and that is all it is. I hope you make some fall harvest soup. I hope this becomes one of your favorites, whether you've used fresh vegetables, whether you've used frozen vegetables, fresh herbs, dried herbs, very easy pantry staple type soup. I hope you enjoy. For more of me and these fun recipes, you can head to cookwithmeg.com, and I will see you next in the kitchen. Until next time, please stay safe, clean those kitchens, and remember, we are awesome. Happy soup, everyone.